Welcome back. Problem solved. Woohoo! So the issue here was not actually having to get these caps closer to the chassis. It had to do with getting them the heck away from the chassis. Also, the way that this was wired up, I think some of this distortion was coming from some of the hum was coming from the way that they wired the ground for where's my pointer? Yeah, this will work. The way that they routed the ground, let's see if I can get you guys to see this without knocking everything over. By the way, when this switch panel is on there, this thing is a real pain in the butt. I can only do it either on its back or on this side leaning up against something. I guess you can't see what I'm doing. So, anyhow, if I hadn't taken the switch assembly off of this thing, it would have been a real pain to work on. Alright, I also found out something else, but I'm not going to fix it, but I'll get to that in a minute. Alright, so these were the two caps in question. As you may recall, they're well, in this case they're 1600 volts, but they were the 2000 volt 003 microfarad. They go from the I guess they bleed the DC off of the plates of the 242 tubes to ground. Anywho, so the way that this was wired, if you can see that, before this, I replaced it, but this ground wire was actually up here over the plate and then twirled around this knob here. This goes to ground. Likewise, this black wire here, which again is the ground, goes from... Sorry, I'm just looking at something else. It goes from here, from the filament to same thing here, except for it was routed over this yellow wire, one of the original ones I didn't deal with, because actually it goes to a terminal up here that all the way up here. All the way up here, there we go. It goes to this terminal that isn't even used by the antenna. I'm not sure. I'm not sure what it's for because it's not in the schematic, but it goes to the speaker here. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe it goes. Oh, maybe it's for an external speaker. Huh. Hadn't thought about that. Anyhow, it's also still pliable, so I didn't bother to replace it. So anyway, so I rerouted them underneath this terminal strip, and actually I soldered them into where the connector for the terminal strip. There's, you know, where they I don't want to call it riveted, but they're pushed in. Let me grab a terminal strip. I'm pretty sure I know you guys know what I'm talking about, but I basically routed it through one of these holes here and soldered it onto this side and got it completely away from any of this grounding stuff here. And also I rerouted this yellow. Oh, this is the yellow wire for the possible external speaker. Anyhow, so I rerouted that, and I ended up having to take this out, the transformer out. Also, you know, I'd sent pictures to my friend Bill, and he seemed to think this was a replacement transformer, but I don't think it is. There is a number on the side, which has a part number on it. It says C32M 9308 or 6, 9306, I think. Which got me to thinking, but I don't think it is a replacement, because if you look at the top, see if this will focus in. Alright, be good, focus in. Come on, you can do it. There you go. Hopefully you can see that. That's the part number that is on the schematic, the 327981. The M isn't on the schematic, but so I don't think it was a replacement. Even still, the only reason why he had pointed that out was because he thought, and it did look like it in the picture. See how these wires are kind of crossed like this? When I sent him the picture, it looked like the center tap was actually going to the plate instead of the primary there. So anyway, so I have completely eliminated all hum whatsoever, to the point where I didn't realize that I had it on the wrong band. And I thought, oh God, I screwed up. I wired something wrong because I got absolutely no volume. But now there's, the speaker, there's nothing coming out of it. No low rumble. I mean, some of my sets I still have a tiny bit of hum, but now there's nothing coming out of the speaker once it warms up. Sorry, I've got the flute plugged in again. When I have this thing set at exactly, well, I set it to 122 because my power here fluctuates between 121 and 122. And when I have it at exactly 122 volts, and I hook the up to this electrolytic up here, it spikes all the way up to 500 volts, which kind of creeps me out because these are 450 volt caps. I used to think that, oh, well, gee, 350 or 300 would be fine if your maximum voltage is 250, but I no longer think that after watching this, because at 122 volts it will spike at about 500 to 505 volts. So, lesson learned. If I'd put a 300 volt cap in there, it probably would have exploded, or exploded in 6 months. So anyhow, I'm going to go ahead, and this is the 47 that's in here, isn't it? Yeah, I'm just going to go ahead and leave it. It works fine, and I just don't feel like pulling it out. Plus, it wedges very nicely between the, I got live voltage in there. It wedges very nicely between the screw that's holding up the pilot lamp stand and the base of the Sprague 8 microfarad Sprague. So anyhow, wedges in there nicely. It's not loose. This one still is, but it's still, all the stuff pushes up nicely against the chassis. So anyway, the radio's on, and you can't hear squat. You probably heard that little static thing a minute ago, but I'll put the microphone right up to the speaker. You may be able to hear a little bit of fuzz. I can hear it, but no hum whatsoever, which is good, because I was thinking to myself, I was wondering in my head what I would find an acceptable amount of hum if I couldn't get rid of all of it. But it also makes me wonder if this is the reason why I still try to think the best of people, I guess, and barring the fact that there may have been other bad caps in here, this obviously had a hum when the technician worked on it, and he worked on it on such a long time ago. As you could see from the old caps that he replaced were the same style as what was in here, so it couldn't have been done more than well, especially because he put a dog bone in there even. I would guess that it was done sometime around 50, 51-ish right around in that kind of area. So these caps weren't that old to begin with when he swapped them out. So, and because of the fact that it all went away when I reoriented the filament wiring, I mean, I could get it to be real quiet when I first moved these. I did this in stages. And like I said, it completely disappeared when I rewired the filaments and got them away from, completely away from any terminals or anything that have to do with the output transformer. Anyhow, so there it is. So let's go ahead and turn it up and you can hear music.
I don't know if you can find this thing, but my heart is lying on your way.
Oh, this is going to be that time of day where I get some static on 1510. Now, the other thing that I had noticed was, do you probably remember, maybe somebody had a little thing go off in their head that I was wrong, because I was. I had talked about the tone control and how it didn't show anything on the ohms, but it showed capacitance that changed when I moved the tone control. Well, as it turns out, all I had to do is look at the static. The tone control is obviously a variable resistor. The problem with the tone control, and it's a weird size too, it's 400K. The problem with the tone control, I think it's 400K. Where is it? Yeah, the tone control is 400. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, 400K. The problem with the tone control is that it does not work until you get about halfway down the tone control. So right now, tone's all the way up, and of course, it's a quiet song, but the tone control does not kick in until it hits about halfway across its range. And then it's really quick. It goes from like 250K to 400. So there's, or not even, I don't even think it goes quite to 400. I think it goes to like 390. So there's this really short amount of resistance that it has in it, change, and it's over, just a half of the turns. So, I'm just not going to do anything with it. It's got a really long shaft on it, and it's got that gear on the end of it. I do not have a 400K control, although I do have a 500, but I don't have anything that's non-switched, I don't think, or that doesn't have a long enough shaft, and I would still have to deal with getting the gear on there. I would probably wager that Mark Oppett has one, because he seems to be the king of controls. But, a control like that, if he did have it, would probably be, say I paid $21 for a volume from him. So I could just only I imagine that it would be somewhere between, say, $21, and being that it's an odd size, I don't know how much it would be. So I'm just not going to mess with it. It sounds fine. I mean, I don't think I'm ever going to change the tone. My guess is that this tone was never changed more than halfway anyway, which is why it's probably worn out and doesn't do anything. Anyhow, so that's where I am. So I guess the next thing I'm going to do here is, I worked on the cabinet a little bit. I've been iced in for like 2 days, so I've got cabin fever really bad. So I've been doing all sorts of weird projects around here. So I did work on the cabinet a little bit. I used the amalgamator, and it really didn't do a whole lot, except for really stink up the house, because it's kind of watered down lacquer thinner, basically. $26 worth, I might add. And after it, I chased it down with the patter, which is basically more lacquer thinner and alcohol, and it's got some shellac in it and some plasticizers. And it did remove some of the, or it did blend in some of the cracking, but you know, as with the stuff I read online, probably would have done better. It'd probably be better just to refinish it. It's not really that bad. The other thing too is that, you know, when you rub this, you have to rub this stuff on real quick and then don't touch that area again, because it softens the lacquer. And I did kind of, at first I thought it was messed up, but I was able to use some of that Scratch X polish I use, and was able to bring it back. But I did almost ruin the finish on the top. So you got to be real careful with that stuff. And as someone else had mentioned in a couple of people mentioned in posts, that if you mix, they mix, I guess, lacquer thinner with a little bit of retarder and then wipe that on real quick, and you kind of get the same thing. Although you don't get the extra plasticizers, but yeah, I don't know. That amalgamator might work well if I practiced with it, but again, I don't want to get this thing into a situation where I have to refinish it, or, you know, find some big thing to stick over where I, you know, messed it up real bad. So I went over it again. Oh, that was the other thing. Before I polished it, I went over it again with Howard's, and so I would, like I said, I brought it back to where it was before, with some polish, and now I just gotta wax it, and you won't be able to tell I did anything. Some of the cracking, like I said, did blend, but it just didn't do a very good job. So enough babbling about that. I'm gonna have to, I guess I gotta get this thing put back together enough to, I gotta get the plate on there, and then the routine for aligning it is rather interesting. It needs to be, the interesting part is it kind of needs to be in, they really want it in the cabinet, and you have to align it while it's in the cabinet, and that's going to be a lot of fun, because several, you know, things are on the top. Anyhow, so I guess that's the next step, is getting it back in the cabinet. Wow, I'm almost done. That's kind of creepy. So thanks again for watching, and I hope you guys are having a great weekend, and this being iced in thing is driving me nuts. I just thought I'd mention that. Have a great rest of the weekend.